elaborated brilliantly on the issues, asking him questions that he couldn't answer. The only answer is, I have power, I have decided, I'm going ahead. So, it's your turn. Whatever you decide together will determine the future of Africana. So I thank you for coming, and we count on you to make sure that we preserve Africana studies.
I'm wondering, we invited a number of members, of the press here. Is there anyone from the press who would like to ask a question? Of course, we will be available afterwards to talk with you if you want to speak with us. So is there anyone from the press who would like to ask a question? I did have an interview. I was a little late coming in. The Ithaca Journal, they say they're going to run a story tomorrow, and I was interviewed by the reporter from the Ithaca Journal. Anyone from the press? Okay. I also want to say that we've received a number of phone calls, of email messages from alumni around the world who are really as surprised as we are about what has happened, about what has taken place. And I had no idea that we were going to get this kind of turnout. I think as we began to discuss this, to think about having this press conference, and it's not just a press conference, it's also an opportunity for you to ask any questions that you might have that we can clarify for you. So at this point, is there anyone who has any questions they'd like to ask Ken?
My question is, given the history of the Africana Center, if the faculty could elaborate in regard to previous attempts to change the direction as has ever happened before, so could you elaborate on that?
Well, I'll speak from my vantage, and then Professor Turner, who has a longer history, can speak from his vantage. Again, one of the reasons why I affiliated with the Africana Studies and Research Center here is because as Africana Studies was being developed as a field, as a discipline in 69, 1970, there were many people who dismissed Africana Studies. They said it wouldn't last. They disparaged what we were doing. They said that we were running rap sessions, that there was no intellectual substance to the field. And this was something that, for me personally, I was determined to prove them wrong. And I think over the last 40 years that we have done that. But the initial report on the Africana Center, as I recall, was slightly after I joined the Africana Center, or maybe the year before, 1974. I joined in 1975. And that report, as I read between the lines, was that, you know, we tolerated it for a while, but it will collapse on its own. In fact, they will begin fighting among themselves and destroy it. And this was a sense out there that Africana Studies was not going to last. And then we had another report, as I recall, a second report. And that report did look at the Africana Center becoming part of the College of Arts and Sciences. And that recommendation was rejected, as I recall. Now, we've always had individuals who believed, and as Professor Edmondson mentioned, some of these individuals have been black faculty themselves who believe that we should be part of should be a part of the norm. Well, look, we came into existence to challenge the norm.
That's right.
How are we going to be part of the norm? How are you going to place us today in a college among departments whose ideas we challenge? Okay? I mean, this is the struggle that we had. Then, of course, there was the infamous humanities report, in which they said that so good. See, there's a lack of understanding on this campus, unfortunately, of what we do. And it seems that no matter how much we talk about it or what we say, there's no understanding. We're not like an ethnic studies program. I mean, those programs are doing good work, but we're different. And also, Professor Turner, and I think this might be something behind this now, there's been a struggle nationally about including African studies in African American studies. And the good old boys have still held out at Northwestern. African studies is their preserve. You all can do that African American stuff, but African studies is too important. Well, that also was something that was vastly different here at Cornell, in that when Professor Turner and others established the Africana Center, they made a point of incorporating African studies into the unit. And again, you know, right now, I think in the provost statement, he makes reference to Harvard and Yale. And I'm not just privileging Harvard here, but what has Harvard done? They've now combined African studies with African American. They didn't start out that way. They've now combined African studies with African American studies. And there are a number of other places across the country that are trying to do the same thing. We had an external review here, what, 4, 5 years ago now? And again, this issue was broached. The provost at the time said she would not take up this issue of us becoming a part of the College of Arts and Sciences. And unfortunately, the more we think we have this stuff behind us, and I remember in the meeting with the about the humanities report, I said that just like when I think in my garden, I've done the work, I've gotten rid of the weeds, they pop right back up again. And so I've given you a little overview. I hope I haven't usurped Professor Turner, who has more intimate relationship with the history here.
Yeah. Well, I think that was a good synopsis. I would just simply ask you to understand that the world of ideas is an arena of not only contestation, but struggle. All of us, in one way or another, are moved by an idea. Whether we call ourselves Democrats, Republicans, whether we call ourselves Marxists, whether we are conservative or liberal, whatever. We are generally mastered by ideas. And ideas are important in the realm of intellectual dominance. That everywhere imperialists have gone, they have sought to implant their ideas over and against the gun. It is the idea that facilitates the gun. The idea of the gun by itself has never been successful. I often point out, when you have a man chained